In Paris, married couple Vincent and Sophie own a butcher's shop that is struggling to stay afloat. Their business suffers from a lack of customers, and the few who do patronize them are often put off by Vincent's strange habit of massaging the meat. One afternoon, the shop is vandalized by a mob of vegan activists who splatter it with paint, cause damage, and spray paint the walls. Vincent gives chase and succeeds in tackling one activist, pulling off his mask, but the man's accomplices quickly return to free him, shoving Vincent to the ground. They deliver a kick to Vincent's gut before making their escape. Later that day, the couple confides in their friends, Stephanie and Mark, revealing that the bank has denied their loan application, meaning bankruptcy is imminent. Stephanie's initial sympathy quickly dissolves into boasting about the success of Mark's own butchery. Over dinner, Mark joins in, bragging about his high earnings before presenting Vincent with a gift, a handgun for shop protection. Vincent, lacking a permit, is hesitant to take it, but Mark is persistent, even firing a shot at a pool toy to prove its effectiveness. Driving home, Sophie informs Vincent that she wants a separation, citing the monotony of their marriage and her desire for a more exciting partner. Vincent, however, is preoccupied, having just spotted one of the activists from earlier on a bicycle. He abruptly halts the car, determined to confront the man. Throwing the car into reverse to pursue him, Vincent misjudges and fatally runs the activist over. Vincent is horrified and wants to report the accident to the police, but Sophie quickly intervenes. She reminds him that he has been drinking and that Mark's illegal gun is in the trunk, a combination of facts that would surely lead to a life sentence. Recalling a true crime documentary she recently watched, she proposes that they dispose of the body by emulating a notorious serial killer who dismembered his victims and scattered their remains in trash bags across the city. Shortly after, Vincent has the activist's body on his professional butcher's table and begins to dismember it with his trade tools. He first sections the corpse into large parts before cutting them down further. During the process, an ear falls to the floor, and the couple's dog devours it immediately, barking for more. Vincent tosses it the other ear, observing the dog's relish with a contemplative look. Once finished, he goes to their bedroom, where Sophie is engrossed in another crime program. She informs him that he cannot sleep in their bed, as they are now separated, forcing Vincent to take the couch. The next day, Vincent wakes late and hurries to the shop, where he is horrified to find that Sophie has sold some of the human flesh he'd left on the slicer, mistaking it for a new type of ham. Just as he is about to reprimand her, the customer returns, proclaiming it to be the finest meat she has ever tasted and demanding to buy more. Vincent attempts to offer her other products, but the woman is insistent on having that specific ham. Confused by Vincent's reluctance, Sophie prompts him for an explanation, and he lies, saying he switched suppliers. Intrigued, Sophie samples the new ham and agrees it is exquisite. Vincent tells them it's a special Iranian pork. After the satisfied customer leaves with her purchase, Sophie presses for the real story. Upon learning the truth, she is momentarily aghast, but quickly reverses her stance, urging Vincent not to dispose of the remains but to try some himself. He declines, but Sophie persists, arguing that selling the entire body would be an effective way to eliminate the evidence. Just then, a new customer enters, a friend of the first woman who had shared a piece and now wants to buy his own. Word of the Iranian pork gets around, and before long, the shop is bustling with eager customers. The couple continues to sell the human meat, finally making a substantial profit. The couple becomes tense when a local police officer, Entimac, stops in to purchase some of the popular Iranian pork, but he fortunately fails to identify the origin of the cuts. That night, Vincent consumes the last remaining portion of the activist for his dinner and discovers he also enjoys the flavor. This prompts Sophie to propose that they should begin murdering people to source their new product. Vincent initially dismisses it as a joke, but Sophie is completely serious, arguing that this could be the solution to their financial woes and save their business. The following day, their daughter Chloe brings home her new boyfriend, Lucas. He is a vegan but assures them he is tolerant of meat eaters and not an extremist like the group that vandalized their shop, an act he condemns. While Vincent and Sophie are initially accepting, they are stunned when Chloe announces she has also adopted a vegan lifestyle to support her boyfriend. Lucas proceeds to reject the mushrooms Vincent prepared due to them being in chicken broth, and he refuses their wine, explaining that he only consumes vegan wine since conventional methods involve crushing insects with the grapes. He similarly turns down the cheese and cake they offer because of the milk and eggs. He punctuates his lecture on the cruelty of factory farming by referring to Sophie as an old cow. Once the young couple has departed, Vincent is so incensed that he consents to Sophie's plan to kill people. They visit a vegan restaurant to scout for potential victims, looking for someone well-fed and seemingly calm. They settle on the large cook. After the cook's shift, Vincent trails him to his home and prepares his knife, but he loses his nerve and flees when the man lets out a scream. Back in the car with Sophie, he claims the man fought back, forcing his retreat. Sophie, however, sees through his lie and insists they need to formulate more effective strategies, offering more tips she's gleaned from her true crime viewing. The next day, Sophie and Vincent travel to a different town and pose as vegan activists outside a grocery store. When a passerby insults them, Sophie retorts using the arguments she picked up from Lucas. One vegan man congratulates them, but then launches into a long-winded tirade, forcing Sophie to shout something offensive to make him leave. Another, more amicable activist strikes up a conversation, and they arrange to meet later to talk strategy. Soon after, this man returns with two companions. Realizing they would be outnumbered, Vincent and Sophie prepare to depart, but the trio then reveals their plan to vandalize a meat processing facility. Seizing the opportunity, Vincent agrees to participate over Sophie's objections. On the way, they are given masks to wear, and one of the activists comments that Vincent seems familiar, but the couple deflects by claiming to be florists. Upon arriving at their destination, Sophie is horrified to see that it is Mark's factory. She opts to stay behind, offering to act as a lookout. Vincent, however, joins the raid with relish, gleefully smashing equipment, helping to start a fire, and even urinating on a photo of Mark. Later at a restaurant, Sophie chastises him for his betrayal of their friends, but Vincent argues that large-scale operations like Mark's are more damaging to small businesses than any vegan. He orders a beef steak, but finds he has no appetite for it, as it doesn't compare to the taste of human flesh. Vincent declares he will not kill anymore, which prompts Sophie to mock him, calling him a coward who relies on her whenever he's in trouble. Her taunts enrage him so much that he nearly strikes her with a fork, but he restrains himself, instead announcing their relationship is finished before walking out. Sophie strikes up a conversation with the waiter, and they discover a shared passion for crime documentaries. He drives her home, and upon seeing the shop, remarks on the irony of a vegan giving a ride to a butcher. He continues to flirt and leans in for a kiss, but a famished Sophie bites his tongue hard. As he is now bleeding, she invites him inside to get cleaned up. With the waiter in the bathroom, Sophie informs Vincent that they have their next Iranian pig, goading him with a vivid description of the kiss to incite his jealousy. An enraged Vincent begins to sharpen his knife, which excites Sophie. However, he hesitates, recalling that the best meat comes from stress-free animals. Sophie then decides to prepare the waiter by giving him a massage on the sofa. When she signals for Vincent to proceed, he has reservations, but she pressures him by speaking of their survival and threatening divorce. Vincent enters the living room to find the waiter completely undressed, as the man has misinterpreted the situation as an invitation to a threesome. This sends Vincent into a fresh rage, and he bludgeons the man to death. At that very moment, Chloe arrives. Vincent quickly splashes his face with water from a fishbowl, while Sophie shoves the body and the waiter's clothes behind the sofa. Chloe is distraught. Lucas has broken up with her, convinced that as a butcher's daughter, she must be secretly eating meat. She wants to spend the night and eat some meat from their shop for dinner, which throws her parents into a panic. They frantically urge her to reconcile with Lucas, praising him as a good person. After Chloe leaves, the couple cleans the bloody living room and gets to work on the new corpse. As they butcher the body together, they feel their connection strengthening. They dispose of the waiter's bicycle in a river and later fall asleep together on the couch. The following morning, Stephanie and Mark phone to offer sympathy after discovering their vandalized factory. Sophie initially feels a pang of guilt, but it vanishes when Stephanie once again belittles Vincent's shop. Officer Intamak visits and confirms that the same activist group is responsible for both attacks, showing them surveillance footage. As Stephanie and Mark discuss seeking government compensation, Intamak quietly requests another purchase of Iranian pork from Sophie and Vincent. That same day, a queue stretches down the street for their special product, and they sell out of the entire body within hours. Sophie assures the crowd there will be more the next day. That evening, they abduct the cook from the vegan restaurant and, after a brief moment of reluctance, kill him in their bathtub. In the following days, the couple murders more vegans using various methods. Vincent's hesitation disappears, replaced by an enjoyment of the hunt. Their customer base explodes, with immense lines forming daily. The shared work of murder brings them closer, becoming so commonplace that they engage in casual conversation during the acts. One evening, they lure a vegan man with the promise of raiding a meat plant. As the man selects a mask, Vincent prepares his knife, but their target spots him, kicks him, and flees. The couple pursues him into the woods but loses track of him. Just as Sophie believes he has escaped, Vincent hears movement nearby. Sophie then dials the man's cell phone, and the sound of his ringtone betrays his hiding spot. The terrified man bolts again, but he stumbles and falls. When Vincent and Sophie reach him, they find he has died, apparently from a heart attack induced by sheer terror. The next day, Sophie and Vincent serve steaks from the man who died of a heart attack to Stephanie and Mark. Their friends concede that the meat is delicious, their envy rendering them uncharacteristically subdued. During a second helping, Mark is startled to find a metal object in his steak, which Stephanie identifies as a pacemaker. Vincent quickly snatches it, claiming it is a microchip used by farmers for tracking cattle. This leads to an argument, and when their friends revert to ridiculing their small shop, Vincent musters the courage to retaliate, verbally tearing into them. Enraged, Mark attacks Vincent, and the two men brawl in the garden as their wives try in vain to stop them. The fight ends with Vincent tackling Mark into the swimming pool, where he instinctively bites off Mark's ear and begins to chew it. When Stephanie shrieks in horror, Vincent spits out the ear in feigned disgust, acting as though it was a deliberate, symbolic gesture. Inspired by a nature documentary about leopards, Vincent starts to mimic their stealth and running styles to become a more effective hunter. He continues to study other animals, learning techniques such as a snake's method of strangulation. On some evenings, the act of consuming human flesh arouses the couple, leading to intimacy. One day, while having a picnic barbecue in a park, a man complains to them about the smoke and what he describes as the smell of burning bodies, as it is his preferred yoga location. The couple feigns compliance but then murders him. Later, they go to a vegan festival in search of more prey. Vincent finds himself disturbingly drawn to a portly young boy, unsettling himself with the thought of harming a child. Their scouting is interrupted by an encounter with Chloe and Lucas, forcing them to claim they have turned vegan themselves and are only butchering meat to make ends meet. Lucas remarks on the recent string of disappearances in the vegan community, suspecting the Farmers' Union or Butchers' Guild. He then abruptly expels them from the festival, denouncing them as butchers, an accusation overheard by one of the activists from the raid on Mark's plant. As they leave, Sophie spots a black woman and notes that they have yet to sample that flavor. Vincent agrees to abandon his no women policy, and they pursue her. That evening, as Vincent is butchering the woman, his knife snaps. He returns to the shop for a replacement, only to find Officer Intamak at the door. The officer is merely curious about the lights being on so late. Vincent claims to be working overtime. The situation escalates when their dog wanders over with a human hand in its mouth. Vincent shouts at the dog to drive it away and explains to Intamak that he suffers from PTSD from the activist attack. Just before departing, Intamak brings up the subject of the missing vegans. Shortly after, Vincent informs Sophie that he has disposed of the woman's remains, convinced that Intamak is suspicious. He declares that their killing must end, but Sophie disagrees, driven by a desire to surpass the kill counts of infamous serial killers. Their ensuing argument is cut short by the doorbell. It's Lucas, who has come to apologize for his earlier outburst and confess his fear of losing Chloe. Sophie invites him to stay and relax, a suggestion that alerts Vincent to her plan to murder him. Vincent immediately ejects Lucas from the house, confronts Sophie, and declares that the era of Iranian pork has concluded. That night, Sophie attempts to watch a documentary but finds no pleasure in it, switching off the TV. Vincent sleeps on the couch with the dog. The next day, Vincent attempts to sell regular beef, but the huge queue of customers dissipates upon learning that Iranian pork is off the menu. Sophie calls him a coward, and Vincent, feeling unappreciated for all he has done, walks out. Later, as Sophie is locking up the shop for the night, the activists arrive, inquiring about the couple who claim to be florists. That evening, Vincent returns home to find his dog barking insistently at the activists' parked van. Inside, the activists have bound Sophie inside a walk-in refrigerator, telling her they intend to subject her to the same treatment as a slaughtered animal. As one of them prepares to kill her, Vincent smashes through the door with his dog, which immediately lunges at the man threatening Sophie. Vincent fatally strikes a female activist in the head with a thrown knife before engaging the third man, who quickly gets the upper hand and stabs Vincent. Enraged, Sophie breaks free from her restraints and impales her attacker on a meat hook, killing him, while the dog incapacitates the first activist by biting his crotch. Sophie then tends to Vincent, removing the knife and determining the wound is not life-threatening. Sometime later, a true crime documentary details the case of Sophie and Vincent. Stephanie and Mark are interviewed, explaining that their testimony led to the couple's arrest. They make racially charged remarks about Officer Entamac as they recount how they inquired about Vincent's microchip story, only to learn no such technology was in use. The pacemaker was the crucial piece of evidence that unraveled their entire operation. The couple was sentenced to life in prison. At the trial's conclusion, when asked by the judge if they had any remorse, Sophie stated that her sole regret was murdering a man who had a pacemaker. Remember to subscribe and activate notifications to stay updated with more content like this. We appreciate you tuning in.